So in this video, we are going to see how to develop a Mac app, specifically a menu bar app. So menu bar apps are nothing but the apps that just sit on your top menu bar on the Mac, and they don't have any icon on the top. So something like this. So let me just launch this app so you get an idea how this app works and looks. So I launched the app, and as you can see, there's no dock icon for the app. It just has this icon in the menu bar and with these options. So I have like three main options: toggle, rate on App Store, talk to developer, and then these two options that are like by default almost all the apps have that. So launch at login and quit. And as you can see, like you understand, I think you understand what each options does in terms of functionality. So toggle is just a function that changes the icon of that menu bar icon for now, because this is a template app, and then depending on your app's functionality, this toggle can do anything else, or there could be many other options that you can use to trigger some functions in your app. So I've been using this template from a few years now, so let's see how this template is working. So we'll start at app delegate.swift. That's where your app starts. As you can see, I have this. So first of all, let's talk about how to set up this auto launcher. So we have this launch at login, and even before that, let me go to the main storyboard. As you can see, I don't have any window controller or view controller because this is just a menu bar app. So all I have is this menu with the options, menu items, and a separator between them. And if you go to the app delegate, so I just press option and click on the app delegate, so it opens on the side. And as you can see, these things are tied to their respective function in here. So let me hover over it. Let me highlight this, and then if I hover over, so you can see that this function is tied to the action of this menu item. Similarly, launch at login, talk to us, rate on App Store, and toggle. So once you have this UI set up and hooked up to the app delegate, what I have is, so once you come into the app did it finish launching, so first of all we set up the status item. So status item is nothing but the icon that shows up in the menu bar. So it's a button. So to have this status icon, we create a constant called status item, and with the status bar API we get the status item in the system menu bar. With a length, we define a variable length, because like we don't know how much this icon is going to take on the menu bar, so variable length is kind of fine for this use case. For most use case, you're going to use variable length unless you want to restrict the menu item to some particular length. And then once we have this status item declared, we get the button out of it, because this is essentially a button. You are clicking on it and it's popping up this menu. So it gives you the main button, and you can define actions on it. So I have defined this action, do some action, that is an Objective-C function, passed as selector, because selector can only take Objective-C functions. That's why I have put objc in front of this function. And next button can send actions. What actions can it send? So I've declared left mouse up and right mouse up. That means if I left click on it, it will do something. and if I right click on it, it will do something. So I'll just show you how it's doing that. So when it's clicked, because button action is do some action, it's gonna call this function. We do some refresh UI, because like once you click on it, we want to show the updated menu items here, so that's why we refresh the UI first, and then we get the current event, and we can check if it's right mouse up, that means we right clicked it, or else we left clicked it. So if we left clicked it, you can see we are popping the menu that you are seeing here. But if you right clicked it, currently we're not doing anything. That's why nothing happens if you right click. Next, we set up the menu bar icon. So for menu bar icon, I've done a very simple thing. Like we had these two images, menu icon and menu icon off, because it can be turned on and off. So there are two images for those states. And we simply declare extension on ns image with the name, ns image name. So we can have this menu icon image stored in as a static variable in menu icon and menu icon off. So once you have that, what you can do is call menu icon directly. So if you see here, so I've declared a variable menu icon that gets the ns image that is named menu icon. So this name is coming from ns image name that we declared earlier. So this is not ns image, this is ns image name. So we get the name out of this string that we pass to this ns image and get the menu icon and menu icon of ns image. And here we are like resizing that ns image to be of the size of the icon in the status menu, and we use ns status bar thickness to make a square icon. Similarly, we do that for menu icon off, and then we assign the menu icon off image to the status item button, because we are gonna start as off. Now, to understand this logic, we have to first understand this auto launcher, because we have this option called launch at login. So what this essentially does is it schedules your app to be launched at a system login, and for that we are using this auto launcher target. So creating this target is easy. Just go to macOS and say app. We are just adding a target, new target, that's another app, and then just say you name this auto launcher, keep using storyboard and Swift, and that's it. I'm not creating it now because I already have it. So once you have this auto launcher target, go to build setting, search for skip install, and this skip install will be no for you once you created the target, but you have to turn it on. You have to say skip install yes, because you don't want to install this app as an app in your launchpad, right? This is just an auto launcher used by the main app to launch at login. And that is it. Once you have this, name it appropriately. So if your bundle identifier of the app is compo1 template, you will name your auto launcher as this compo1 template auto launcher. So once you have this target, simply you will use ns distributed notification to talk between auto launcher and your main app. So this is the logic that will be required in your auto launcher, so that it can be scheduled to launch at login, and once the auto launcher launches, it will launch your main app. And once your main app launches in app delegate, you're killing the launcher if it's running. So launcher is scheduled at login, it launches your main app, and then your main app launches and kills the auto launcher if it's running. So that's what this logic is doing. And if you see here, launch at login clicked, that's what happens when you click the launch at login. So how do you schedule the auto launcher to be started at login? So for that, we are using SML login item set enabled. So this is an API in service management framework that you can use to schedule the launch for the auto launcher with the launcher bundle identifier. You can see we have defined in our main app only, we have defined this identifier for our auto launcher that we're using with the SM login item set enabled API to schedule a launch at login. And once it's successful, we are setting our preference so this is shown checked in the menu. Similarly, we can set so this was for when it was enabled, and this is when you disable it. So just simply pass false or true. So this was launch at login, and then after that what we do is we refresh the user UI because we need to show the right preferences. So the preferences are remembered, as you can see here. We are writing the preferences into the user default standard. That means whenever your app restarts, it will maintain all its preferences states. So when you click on this when you open this menu bar items, you can see this launch at login is still ticked. That means it got remembered. So that's why this refresh UI is needed. So this will set all your menu items at the right state according to what preferences have been set on them. So refresh UI, so it's taking care of changing the menu bar icon image. So this image changes when you toggle it on. So if you are starting your app, and this refresh UI will keep it toggled and keep the menu icon on. So this is the on menu icon, this is the off one. And similarly, this has been set for launch at login with the preference launch at login, and toggle menu item is enabled. So this toggle tick is remembered. So once you have refreshed the UI, so it's up to date with the preferences, the next thing is your app's functionality. So for this template app, I've created a resource monitor.swift file. That's just like it starts tracking your CPU activity. So I start monitoring, and I have a timer of 1 second, and that's repeating. So and it's finding out the CPU uses of the user, system, and idle. I'm not showing it anywhere, just printing it out. As you can see, it's printing in here just to demonstrate. But this is the point where your app functionality starts. And you have already gone through refresh UI, will terminate, you're not doing anything, we could just remove it. And this toggle functionality, as you can see, we have a reference to the menu item and an action assigned to this menu bar item. So this did toggle just toggles the preference and then calls the refresh UI so that the menu item is updated with this tick. Or if we remove the tick, it will be updated as well. And once you have your class, let's say resource monitor is our class, you can even trigger some functionality on that class with that did toggle. And that's what you're gonna do. Like the toggle is not just gonna change the image of the icon. You're gonna trigger some functionality, and here's the point when you call it. And rate on App Store. it's just gonna open a URL for your app store. For example, so currently I have an example of Pixelmator Pro. So if I click on Radon App Store, it will show that storefront of Pixelmator Pro on the App Store, and it will trigger your App Store app and go to your store page. And that's all for that button. And talk to us creates, so this talk to developer creates gets the SMS sharing service and triggers an email. Let's click on it, talk to developer. It will open your email app with the subject that you have defined. And that's it. So that like customers can send you feedback or feature requests or any reports about your app. Launch it, login, we already talked about. Quit will just terminate your app. And that's it for this simple menu bar app, I think. One more thing, like in the auto launcher, because it's not going to show any UI, so you can as well delete this window controller and view controller. And in the info.plist file, you can add, because it's gonna be a UI agent again, like it's not gonna show any UI, so you can say application is background only, right? And you can say yes, so it will only run in background. It's not going to show the icon on the dock, or it's not going to show any UI. And similarly, so in your main app's info.plist file, you can see it's an UI agent. So difference between the UI agent and background process is that background process will not show any UI whatsoever, but UI agent can show a status bar icon like this. So that's why your main app is a UI element, an agent. So this is an agent. And preferences UI have two preferences that we are using, one for launch at login and one for toggle. And it's using user standard user defaults to store bool value. You can have more preferences if you want, and it's just a singleton that you're using. And this is the logic of the UI. So this class you can use to write your app's logic if you want. And this is similar to the resource meter, but I'm gonna deprecate this. I'm not gonna use this. I'm gonna use logic in future. So this is just a logic class that's a singleton, and it implements your all your app's functionality. So let's say you have this toggle functionality, make a function toggle, and this will toggle your preference. So in your app delegate, where when user clicks on this toggle button, this did toggle action is triggered. What you can do is, instead of setting this preferences here, you call your logic dot shared and then say toggle. So this is a nice way to encapsulate all your functionality in the logic of the app. Your app might be more complicated. You might have to have multiple classes interacting with it, but this could be your interface for your logic or for all the functionality. So yeah, that's all I wanted to show you guys today. I'm gonna put this project on Patreon, where you can download this project and use it any way you want. I'm gonna be focusing this channel on indie development on Apple platforms for Mac apps, iPhone apps, and watchOS apps. And I'm gonna show you how I develop my apps end to end, and even provide you with source code so you can get some inspiration and start your own. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.